Well, it has been a minute since I have recorded a full-time video, but it's finally here. And today we're looking at a very interesting candidate from this list of products I have sitting in my office right now. This is a keyboard by Womier. Now, you've probably heard of Hall Effect keyboards. I did a whole video on it, got some pretty decent views, so you might have seen that one. This is the Womier M68 Hall Effect version 2, so it's their improved version, and honestly, it can't really get a lot better than this. I'm sure Wu-Tang's better, whatever, but this is everything you need in it as well, and for a pretty decent price. So the fact that Wu-Tang still charges that much for their keyboards may not be ethical after all. So this is a 67% keyboard, comes in black or white, cherry profile keycaps, south-facing switches, tons of RGB, 8,000 hertz polling rate, but it is a plastic case, so do keep that part in mind. I prefer aluminum. I would love to see them make this aluminum with all the features and all the things they've done with this, but I can settle for plastic for this version. Now, the one thing they did add, which is kind of strange on this keyboard, is they actually put the USB-C port on the right-hand side, which is kind of a weird feature. So when you're plugging it in, it's the opposite of where you're used to going. It's a little strange. Now, these are Womier Jade Blues. These are linear switches. They do have tactile as well. 40 grams of force, max body amount of 48 grams, and they are factory lubed. Now, from everything on this keyboard also is lubed, from the switches down to the stabilizers, so everything just sounds smooth and just accurate and just, oh, crispy. Now, I do want to take this apart, and the easiest way to do that is just to slam it on the desk and you're good to go. Shake off all the rest of the keycaps, and it is plate mounted, so it's not gasket mounted. And inside, they do have a nice layer of foam. Now, this is the exact kind of foam you want to have a deep, thocky sound, which this does decently have. Foam in between the plate and the PCB. And the only thing I'd recommend is a film on the back here, which isn't a necessity, but it can make the switches sound better. Now, the biggest thing about this, of course, are the features involved here. 8,000 hertz of polling rate, meaning you're gonna need the fastest reaction time possible in your games. Hall effect adjustments, and the coolest part, their driver is web-based, so you don't need to install any new software in your PC. And it also does have snap tap, which I know is controversial and some games are starting to ban. I've been playing just fine. I don't think I've enabled the feature necessarily quite yet. I'm gonna leave that alone. But I finally realized this entire time I've been working with Hall Effect keyboards, I didn't set the preferences to my liking, and I've been kind of annoyed with how sensitive they are. But, you know, with some tweaking and some actual adjustments with this keyboard, I found I really like this one. So first of all, we have a web-based driver, as you can see in this Chrome window. It's just freaking fantastic, right? So in this window, we can set the trigger distance, which is how far you press down the key in order to activate what's actually going to happen. So if I set as an example here all the way to the top for the letter Q, and I go and press the Q button, you're going to see in this notepad here just how fast this is activated. Boom, barely pressed it at all, right? It's activating. Now, if I set this in the bottom here, now you're gonna see it takes me to press all the way down to the bottom in order to actually activate the switch. See? So I always set mine in the middle, about 1.3 is my like I found. But what you should do is you should sit down and you should mess with these adjustments as you game to kind of figure out what you like doing. And this keyboard does not require it to be disconnected, doesn't require to be reset. Every time it does this, it's just live. Now the sensitivity here is set so that depending on how far you lift up, it's reactivated again. So right now it's activated at the very top, which means that it does not activate this letter unless I lift all the way up. As you can see, it's pressing, nothing's happening unless I go all the way up, then it stops, okay? But if I set this down to the bottom, the least sensitivity, you're gonna notice that basically if I press it, it's a new keystroke every time. And I never have to even lift up my finger, even just a tiny, tiny bit, which mechanical switches require you to go all the way up in order to actually activate the switch. Here, I'm barely moving, right? So it's very fast in that regard. So I tend to set mine about 0.16, where I found I like my sensitivity. So that's where I have things set. Now you can also do a full distance fast trigger, which basically says that the quick trigger function's active all the time, instead of waiting for the trigger to go all the way down first. So if I activate this, I can always use my rapid trigger without lifting my finger up all the way. And again, there's also the dual effect, toggle switch, dynamic key travel, and the SOCD. And all of these settings are extremely functional, and I don't necessarily use them quite yet, but you could set up to 4 different actions for one key, depending on how far you're traveling down. You can have a single key when it's held does a function versus clicking it's another. There's so many different things you can do on here, and of course the SOCD kind of acts like cheating. And it lets you strafe really well in gaming. So I've spent about a week with this keyboard, and you probably saw from my other review that I've spent a lot of time with Hall effect keyboards and I never really had a good time with them. This is the first one that's been the most accurate, has the best settings, has the best driver involved, has the best look in RGB and feel that I've felt so far. Now, for the low price of only about $70 right now, it's an absolute steal. Would I pay a little extra to have this in aluminum? Yes, I would. But I think overall, this package that you're getting here is perfect. It's very accurate and perfect for gaming. It even works for typing if you have certain sensitivity set on the keyboard so you're not accidentally pressing extra keys. And it's a great complete package. The only feedback I'll give if they want to do a version 3 on this probably is to add a little more lube to all the stabilizers. It's pretty lubed already, but it just could use a little bit more. A film on the back so that the switches sound a little bit nicer, and give the option to make this an aluminum case. Just take this whole package, slap it in aluminum. A lot of more people will be happy because aluminum really makes a keyboard feel heavier, have a better sound, and just overall better package. Maybe gasket mounted. I mean, that's all asking a bit much. But for the price you're getting for this specific keyboard, the version 2, it's a great deal. It's a steal. Go pick it up right now. I'll put the links in the description down below. I'm going to be using this for my gaming going forward. Thanks for watching Lucky Strike Tech. I hope you liked the video. Catch you in the next one.